What's up, guys? Welcome back to Storytime with Uncle John, where we pluck stories from Reddit and around the web that pretty much interest me, but it's also for you guys. That's why we mostly do Tales from Tech Support and Malicious Compliance. Sometimes we'll throw in Am I the A-hole or something like that, but today is going to be Malicious Compliance. I was reading through comments yesterday. Yes, I do read the comments, so feel free to leave some down below. I won't respond to all of them, but I try to at least signify with a like or a heart or something that I've at least seen it and read it. And so feel free to leave comments. And one of the comments said that I speak fast. I know I speak fast. I get mush mouth and, my enunciation just goes right out the window. Also, with this new format, with, me being on this side and the text being on that side, that it was a little bit harder for somebody to read on their tablet. On their PC, they said it was fine, or their laptop, but their tablet, I guess, was an issue because of orientation or whatever. Some of that I think may have been because I was reading directly off the website on the last video, and that may be part of it. I usually take the long way around and copy the text and put it in all reality, it's in a PowerPoint. So, it just makes it easier to make the slideshow and make it clear and whatever size I want it. So we're going to try to keep this format where my ugly mug's on the screen for a little while. And then I went ahead and went back to the regular slides that I usually do so that hopefully everything's crisp enough that you can read it even though it's slightly smaller. It's not a ton smaller, honestly. I just shifted it over to the right. So anyway, enough of that rambling crap. Let me know what you think, and to the person who said that it was harder to read, let me know if this is any better, and we'll go from there. Always willing to adjust a little if I can. All right. Want me to cancel my vacation? Sure. This is a very funny story, in my opinion, which I think goes here. So I was a software engineer at Google. Then I moved to another company who headhunted me for a buttload of money. They wanted to be able to tell clients that they had an ex-Googler lead the client's project. Because I was headhunted, I managed to get a lot of special perks. I made them guarantee me X numbers of days off per year and made sure I got no tier 1 on-call, etc. This is a very funny story, in my opinion, which I think goes here. Why did I copy that again? I have no idea.
Why are you the way that you are?
Anywho, this company was very badly managed. They had a policy of giving completion deadlines for the end of the month, which often resulted in multiple deadlines being on the same day. In fact, they were smart enough to guarantee completion on the 31st of December to one client. Obviously, that project didn't go as planned, as a ton of people took time off along with the holidays. It was a few days behind. They decided they would cancel, leave off as many people as they could, but were nice enough to encourage us to do it ourselves. Luckily, they sent an email. Given I was the team lead, they asked me to stay too. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I had negotiated a nice little point of guaranteed days off per year, and it was structured so that I got 20 days off every year, 5 of which I was guaranteed I could take the year I got it. In fact, it was structured weirdly enough that I almost had to take it off, and even I couldn't waive it. I emailed our director to confirm he wanted me to cancel my vacation, and it was more of a guideline than a request. Once I got the confirmation, I canceled my vacation. Bottom line, it was a fun battle with HR the next month, but I got paid 3 times for those 5 days and got those days forwarded to the next year. I didn't stay long enough. By then I had around 25 days off, took them off, and right after I took them off, I submitted my resignation. Later I heard that the company lost a bunch of contracts and wasn't able to pay salaries because of how badly they were managed. That is pretty poor management when they sit down and negotiate a deal with you and can't honor the deal. And then they want to bitch and gripe because they had to pay you extra money. And then, they're always, it's not just management. Management and, if any of you guys are in sales, forgive me, but there's a lot of you guys out there that don't know how to sell without high pressure and over-promising things. I've run into both being on the other side of the fence where salespeople and management would encourage it or management would demand it, whatever, that, they would promise the moon to these people, whether it's, extras in the job or the certain deadline that was just totally not feasible to make. And then we all stand around looking like idiots because somebody else made a promise that just wasn't realistic. That's just how it goes, I guess. But yeah, good for you, man. Hopefully you found something better. Uber Eats stakeholders want to bleed us dry? I worked in a pizza joint which started advertising on Uber Eats. According to my boss, Uber Eats takes a huge cut of the sale, up to 40%. No problems, we just increased the price on the app to compensate for that 40%, along with handing out a menu on each Uber Eats order with our real in-house delivery prices. We got a lot of new regular customers, originally from Uber Eats, ordering directly from us. I'd get a lot more tips now. I know that my boss benefited much more than me, but truth is lamer than fiction and I'm not LARPing here. Well, Uber Eats is a service, and just like my small business, we make soap. Ooh, segue into an ad? Nah. Web link here. Anyway, so we make handmade soaps, beard stuff, traditional shave soaps, colognes, all that stuff. And, there are certain services that we would use that would take a cut of the profit because, it costs money to do them. Whether it's credit card processing, certain things on the website. We just added a new live chat feature. Don't abuse it. And because I'm the only guy that's going to be able to answer them for a while. So, if I spend all my day answering them, I can't make soap and I can't make videos. So anyway, extra services are going to cost money. If you use Uber Eats and everything else that's going to, help bring in sales, it's going to cost you some. Unfortunately, if you can at all avoid any extra, outside forces sending, customers your way, then by all means, that's probably the best way to go. But what are you going to do? If there's any local places here that do delivery on their own, I try to avoid the external delivery services if I can. I always check their website first just to see if they have in-house delivery. So there's that. Need more space? This happened a number of years ago. For background, I work on a car ferry and am one of the crew members responsible for the loading of the vehicles. I don't do it alone though, and it's a team sport. Before we load vehicles onto the car deck, we receive a loading list of the booked traffic for the sailing. If someone isn't booked, they can wait on standby to see if we can fit them on. With the deck loaded and the boat almost full, I said we could take a small MG if they didn't mind the squeeze. On came the green 1974 MGB, a very nice small car. Ooh, I had a 1974 MG Midget, which is very similar, but I believe it's even smaller. It's could you picture my frame, my width, and my 6'1" height sitting in this little car? The only way I could drive it was with the top down. But anyway, on came the green 1974 MGB. After some gentle and slow guidance, it made it on with the smallest of margins. Cue the shouting from a man in his late 50s, early 60s. I'll call him entitled Arse. You there! I can't get out of my car! There was enough room to open the doors, but not all the way, admittedly. This was besides the point, though, because he was standing next to me a few cars away from his when he said it. What are you going to do about this? It's a disgrace. I had to ask him again to repeat his complaint and hope that he would realize how absurd his statement was. He said it again. I tried to stay composed and remembered that he might have had a bad drive or even a bad day up to this point. His wife was trying to tell him to be quiet and just to be grateful, but no. We were, myself and the other crew members, doing our best to help them. As soon as he said to one of the sailors, I paid for my ticket. I demand full space, you effing morons. My mind was made up to help this gentleman. Cue malicious compliance. I said to him, I'm very sorry for your inconvenience. You are, of course, right, sir. If you would like to get back in your car and just back up a little way, we'll be able to get you all the space you need. Entitled Arse. Well, it's about bloody time. Once he was ready, I got one of the sailors to start guiding him from the back of the car. Then I say, keep it going, as his car backs up. The sailor guiding the car says, keep it going. He definitely knew what the plan was. The car was backed off the boat and heading back for the car park. At this point, entitled Arse figured out what was going on and demanded to know what was happening. The sailor said that he would have all the room he needed waiting in the car park for the next boat. After EA lost the plot and came out with the usual threats of, I know the managing director and I'll have you sacked. And we didn't look concerned, his wife snapped and went ballistic at him. Following a major dress down in front of everyone, she made him apologize and asked politely if they could reboard. We said that because his wife was so awesome that would be fine, but to listen to her advice in the future. So I'm not great at this, but I tend to be better than some. Sometimes I'm even better than my wife at this, but you got to stay calm. And guys, if you ever think that you're about to lose your shit and totally go off on some stranger who, by the way, is doing a service for you, so if you want the service, don't muck it up. Just take 2 seconds, take a deep breath, glance over at your spouse, and the look on their face, or maybe even what they're telling you outright, will tell you if you should just shut up or continue to talk. Most of the time, that look on their face is going to say, shut up, be grateful, don't rock the boat. Don't rock the boat. That was not intentional and not that funny, but I got a chuckle. Force me to wear a dress. You won't like what you see. Oh dear. Hello, this happened 2 months ago, but I only thought of posting it now. Warning, it's a little long because I talk too much. Oh, I can relate to that. First, a little context and backstory. I'm a 19-year-old man. I'm a severely closeted trans man, FTM. I recently moved to the US from Africa. I won't specify where for safety reasons, but to study abroad. In reality, I moved in hopes of escaping the anti-LGBTQ laws and the sad reality of being queer in Africa. I hoped in America I could find a future where I could truly live as myself. Spoiler alert, I didn't. Not only does it seem like America hates trans people as much as Africa, but also my family here seems to be 10 times more strict, closed-minded, and traditional than my family back home. For those who don't know, being an international student is expensive as heck. My family's not poor, but we're not covered in wealth either. So to be able to live here, I needed to move in with my family in America, at least for the time being. Now to the actual story. A year ago, my cousin graduated from community college and was going to transfer to another university to complete their degree. We're all taking this route because it's cheaper. Smart move. Naturally, we all had to attend said graduation, and people from immigrant families can probably relate, but my family insisted on being well-dressed, overdressed, for the occasion. I hate dresses with all my heart. I've hated them for as long as I can remember, even long before I realized I was trans. I hate how I look, I hate how they make me feel, and I feel like I'm on the verge of a panic attack every time I'm forced to wear one, especially in public. You can probably tell where this is going. I was forced to wear one for the graduation. You can't fight or talk back to your elders in my culture, no matter how old you are. I tried to protest as much as possible, but the decision was final. I genuinely wanted to unalive myself that day. Anyways, this year was my graduation, and I knew since last year that the same thing would proceed. My family will ask me what I had to wear for my graduation, and even if I had a perfectly nice suit that was appropriate for the occasion, they'll force me to go dress shopping and wear one to it. But this year I came prepared. I didn't mention it earlier, but for over a year and a half now I've been on a weight loss and bodybuilding journey. In fact, the whole incident last year has made me double down and work out even harder. Losing weight and building muscle has been a way to help me manage my body dysphoria. Not only do I now look more masculine, but I look pretty cool with muscles too. Like I said earlier, my family's very traditional, so they live by certain gender expectations, and one thing they absolutely hate is masculine girls and feminine boys. They hate muscular girls with a burning passion, saying it looks ugly or unnatural. So this year when they brought up dress shopping for my graduation, I didn't even put up a fight. I went along like nothing was wrong. While dress shopping, I purposely picked the most tight-fitting dresses, sleeveless ones, and even unattractive ones. I've been able to hide my body progress this whole time by only wearing loose and baggy clothes around the house. So when it came time to try on the dresses, and I came out of the dressing room, the pure look of disgust on their faces is one I can't describe. I had to try so hard not to burst out laughing in the moment. While I'm not the most muscular person out there, I still look pretty buff in those dresses. Simply put, I look like a man in those dresses, and they hated that. Worst part is that they could not even complain about my body because my weight has always been an issue and a talking point in my family. So even though they hated how I looked, at least I lost weight, so they can't complain about that. I was even considering lat spreading as I came out of the dressing room, but that might have pushed it a little too far. Anyway, long story short, they hated every single dress and allowed me to wear my suit, which I looked much better in. And now even though I won, I constantly get comments about working out too much from them. On the bright side, since I graduated, I'm finally moving out after late summer. Hopefully with more freedom and less fear, things will be different this time. Listen, we all have our traditions, feelings, fears, religions, traditions, whatever. The bottom line is, you do what makes you feel comfortable. And like I said, I know you came from a different place with, different traditions and where the family kind of rules, the elders kind of rule. In America, I don't know. Some families still run that way where they're either patriarchal. Oh, look, there's Nickel. Where they're either patriarchal or matriarchal, and I can't say those words well, but anyway. But for the most part, the elders have stopped ruling the roost a long time ago. We have kids. Each of our kids is different in their own way. More power to them. Do what you're going to do. Don't freaking care. As long as you're not hurting yourselves, your family, your kids, your pets, all that stuff, I don't care. You want to be more masculine? Be more masculine. You want to be more feminine? Be more feminine. Whatever. The bottom line is, just like I wouldn't want, and this is a simple, dumbed down version, trust me, but, I don't want people telling me, how I should wear my facial hair, how I should cut my hair, what little bit is left, how, okay, I'm a little overweight. Don't be picking at my weight. Every one of us has our preferences, imperfections, you name it. Leave people alone and let them live. It is what it is. Just like going to fancy functions, I pretty much don't wear suits anymore. I might wear a suit jacket with a nice shirt and a pair of nice jeans, clean, no holes, no stains, all that stuff, no cat hair, hopefully, and, a nice pair of boots. I'll be damned, I am not a black tie kind of guy, and it's just not going to happen. I can do it, and I can blend in very well for the most part, except for this, but I am who I am. Accept me or don't. That was a long ramble. No shirts down the water slide? Okay. Just remembered a story from my childhood and think it might fit. I'm extremely pale and have wildly sensitive skin. As in, I wear prescription sunscreen to go outside for more than 5 minutes. But I genuinely don't ever sit in the sun. I wear huge sun hats and keep myself covered entirely now. Unfortunately, this story takes place when I was about 12. Hadn't yet learned to care about my own safety, and the one time my parents were a bit lax on holiday. I put regular 50+ sunscreen on in the morning, but I went swimming at the beach, then played around for another hour. By the next day, the doctor said I had severe burns on my back and shoulders. Trust me, this never ever happened to me again. I barely get a red nose anymore, I'm so careful. Because it was flippin' agony. Anyway, the rest of that holiday was pretty rough, but my parents bought me a lot of special clothes to get me through, one of which was a light full-body swim costume, a long-sleeve t-shirt and shorts type, so that I wouldn't have to worry about burning anymore. It was light enough it didn't hurt, and meant I didn't have to miss out on the water park, which was always my favorite. Some of the water slides had a rule, no t-shirts, but I assumed since mine was proper swimwear it would be okay. Most of the time it was, but one particular time, that guy had a problem. Got to the top of the slide and the guy said, "No, you have to take the top off. No exceptions," even though the slide was on an inflatable ring. So hey, I'm not one to argue. I whipped the top off to expose my lobster red severely peeling back to the masses. Stuffed the top down my shorts and enjoyed the ride. I went up a second time, started to take the top off, and the lifeguard yelled, "No!" Guess the rule wasn't that strict after all. Yeah, that lifeguard didn't want to get blamed for you getting any more burn or whatever, or freaking people out because of your red lobster peeling back or whatever. So, oh well. I can understand the rule of no loose clothing on certain rides because, it depends on the type of slide, the type of mechanisms involved. Some of them, while gravity takes you down, there are spots where maybe there's a conveyor that takes you up to the next spot and then drops you again. And, you don't want your shirts getting caught up in those things. So, there's that. Some of it's a safety concern, but some of it's just BS. Who knows? I want it to look nice around here. I live in a very tenant-friendly area. We have rent control, and the landlords are not allowed to do things like demand security deposits, enter the property without proper written notice, or include no pet clauses in leases, which renew automatically every month after a fixed term ends. For the last 11 years, my husband and I have had a great relationship with our landlord. Joe, fake name. We've been very lenient in regards to repairs, and Joe was very forgiving when my husband and I both lost our jobs at the same time in 2016 and fell a few months behind on rent. We're now ahead on rent, but Joe is still very behind in maintenance and repairs. We've had a whole laundry list of issues my landlord is aware of, but hasn't done anything about for years, but we didn't care because he left us alone and has been overall very kind to us. A few years ago, our landlord allowed us to start storing stuff in an old rundown shed behind our rented portion of the yard. We never stored anything valuable out there because it's falling apart, and squirrels have been using it to cache walnuts from the numerous walnut trees in our yard. We had an old barbecue, lawnmower, ladders, and outside toys for my kids in there, until recently. A few months ago, Joe shows up asking about the shed, wanting to know what we had stored out there. I told him just some old junk we'll probably throw out soon. He told us that the family next door has a mouse problem. We don't. And he wants us to clear out the shed to prevent issues, and because I want it to look nice around here. I said, okay, I'll talk to my husband and we'll get it cleared out whenever we get a chance. I have an infant at home, so I can't go out back and clean it out myself unless someone else is here to watch the baby. My husband had scheduled surgery, so he wasn't able to do any heavy lifting until after he recovered. Admittedly, cleaning out the old shed was not a high priority. Then Joe sent me a passive-aggressive text. I just wanted to remind you that tomorrow is garbage day. We know garbage pickup has always been on Monday. And we need to work together to keep the rental property nice for everyone to enjoy. I replied asking him if he had plans to fix the shed, to remove his scrap pickup truck, or to remove his open compost piles and heaps of mixed concrete and scrap metal that he has out by the shed he wants us to clean. I also explained that my husband just had surgery and that we weren't planning on cleaning the shed that day. Reddit, he did not like that. He showed up unannounced, walked inside and What? He showed up unannounced, walked inside and proceeded to yell at us in front of our kids. He complained about his personal finances and the economy, inflation, property taxes, whatever, swore at us about our effing shit, told us we can't use his shed anymore, and threatened to evict us because clearly you don't like living here, and I can get way more for this house than what you're paying now. We told him to leave and that we wouldn't communicate with him anymore unless it's in writing. He said fine, we'll do it all by the book from now on, and stormed out. The next day he put an eviction notice in our mailbox complaining that we have excessive garbage and waste in the outbuildings, that we refuse to discuss the issues and corrective action with the landlord, and even adding that he felt like it was unreasonable given the fact that he didn't evict us for late rent back in 2016. The notice gives us 7 days to correct the issues, or else my landlord can file for an eviction hearing. The next day, while I cleaned out everything belonging to us, sans the walnuts and squirrels' poop, from the shed, my husband got busy contacting local bylaws and the Rental Housing Enforcement Agency, traffic cops for landlords. He was given information on how to file against the landlord for refusing to do repairs, illegal entry, loss of an amenity, the shed, and harassment. After a surprise inspection that happened last week, we were given a report that said Joe was given 90 days to fix the roof, plumbing, and the weeping tile. He must demolish the shed and either erect a new shed or give us a rent reduction because the shed was an assumed amenity. According to my neighbors with the mice issue, the provincial government is also involved now because apparently he filled in a pond without a permit, and now the fire department doesn't have a nearby water source in case of a fire. There's no hydrants out here. The city, bylaw enforcement, threatened to fine him for every day that he leaves his large pile of broken concrete and rebar out back. The cherry on top happened yesterday. He sent me a text to tell me that him and the plumber were going to be there within the hour. Normally I'd be okay with short notice, despite the law saying you must provide 24-hour written notice. Not this time. I told him we need 24-hour notice. He showed up, knocked on the door, and when I reminded him that I won't speak to him in person anymore, he called the police saying that I was being hostile towards him and he doesn't feel safe coming here. He sat outside for 4 hours waiting for the police, who later called me instead of showing up. The officer who called said that Joe was told to stop harassing us and that he needs to provide 24 hours notice to enter the home. He wanted to make sure that Joe left and gave proper notice and asked me if I wanted an officer there tomorrow to keep the peace. If Joe doesn't do the repairs he's supposed to, we plan to take him to court and file for a rent reduction, and for a lien to be put on the property so he can't just sell it. We're just doing it by the book from now on, and just wanted it to look nice. I think a lot of landlords, I say a lot, the average landlord is somebody who's really trying to do the right thing while they're, renting out their property and trying to, either make an income or put it towards retirement or whatever. It's an investment. But then you have other landlords who are just total dicks like this guy who want to take advantage of everything. My mom rented for years and most of her landlords were just total A-hats. Entering whenever they felt like it, always waited till she wasn't home to just kind of sneak into the property and look around and see if things were neat and tidy. Excuse me, that's not your effing job. That's not how you do that. So yeah. The same landlord who would do that kind of stuff would show up unannounced, and I'd call my mom at work and say, do you want this guy in here looking at the plumbing? Because we had told him there was some issue that needs to be looked at. And of course, he couldn't be bothered to plan ahead and come look at it. Of course, I'm not sure why he looked, because he knew nothing about plumbing. He should have brought a plumber with him if he was going to do that. Anyway, he'd show up in the house and talk about how things were untidy. Well, first of all, they really weren't untidy. Maybe it needed dusting and a little bit of cat hair removal on one of the chairs, of course, because we've always had cats. But, for this guy to show up, this is also a man that never believed in using deodorant. He smelled of BO nonstop. Anytime I ever ran across this guy, he smelled just straight up, just weird sour onion BO type smell. And talk about how things were untidy in our house. Well, thanks for bringing in the smell on top of it, Mr. Magoo. Maybe next time try a real shower with real deodorant and, not pollute our air with your presence. Well, thanks for joining us today, guys. And here's that link again in case you like handmade crap. So if you get a chance, check out the website. And until the next one, we'll see you.